Hello and welcome to my channel. In this video, I'm going to be doing a book haul, of course, because as we all know, I have a problem when it comes to buying books. And I have another quite sizable amount of books that I need to do haul videos for. Now, to be fair, because it hasn't been that long since my last video, but my last book haul was split into two parts, and it was mostly from like the holiday season. So it has technically been a more reasonable amount of time since I've acquired most of these, even though my last book haul video didn't come out that long ago. But this one is also going to be split into two parts because I have a lot of books and I didn't want these to have one really, really long video, so I'm like, I'll split into two. So this first one is going to be more just like miscellaneous books or different things I've gotten. And then the second part is all going to be focusing on books that are continuing series that I already own some books on, that I'm collecting more on. So I feel like that one is especially more reasonable because naturally I have to get more books in a series I have. Whether or not I've read the ones that come before, that's just how it works, obviously. So look out for that one coming out next week as well. But let's get started with this one. So the first one I want to mention is The Ember Blade by Chris Wooding. And so actually this one was a gift for my birthday from Andrews Visually Reads, and I'll link his channel down below. This one, I had heard him go on and on about this so much, about how much he enjoyed this book, and so I'm really, really excited to read this. And so this one, we follow a character, Aaron, and Aaron's father is executed, and then he himself is put into like a prison mine, and it sounds like there's a revolution brewing that he's kind of pulled into. And then the thing it says about the Ember Blade itself, it says, the Ember Blade is the key, the sword of kings, the Excalibur of his people, but it's locked in an impenetrable vault in the most heavily guarded fortress in the land. All they have to do is steal it. So it sounds like this hits a lot of great, classic fantasy type beats with, young boy who's pulled into bigger events and also might have some like heist to it. So I'm definitely fine for a fantasy heist type novel as well. So I'm really excited to get this one. This thing is beefy. It is a beefy book, but I will make sure to get to this hopefully somewhat soonish, just because, like I said, anything Andrew gushes about is something I'm automatically going to want to check out. So there's that one. Next up, then, I have the Three Body Problem by Chin Lu, and I don't know how to actually pronounce that, so it's probably wrong. But I know this is supposed to be a very popular trilogy. I'm trying to remember. The Remembrance of Earth's Past, I think, is the series. I'd heard about this before, and this was specifically recommended to me by Fit to Be Read. I will also link his channel down in the description. He had showed up to a live show and recommended The Stars My Destination by Alfred Bester, which I bought, and then I read The Demolished Man by Alfred Bester too, and I asked him what are some other like sci-fi things he'd recommend, because it's an area I'm trying to get a little bit more into, and he's read like all of the great sci-fi books that exist, it sounds like. So he recommended this one based on kind of my thoughts on The Stars My Destination, what I said there. So I'd been planning to get this at some point, and it happened to be in, I think I actually got this at Barnes & Noble, and I'm like, all right, I'll get it, because I like to always buy at least a book. So I grabbed this one, which will be good to jump into some more sci-fi. And then actually another sci-fi one that came as a recommendation, we have Mickey 7, and this is by Edward Ashton. This one was highly recommended by Dom from Dominish Books, and I'll link his channel down below as well. And so this is like so Mickey 7 is a clone, and clones are deemed to be very expendable. And so he's like on a mission or something, or like on something he's working on, and then they think he died, but he's actually saved. But then when he comes back, he finds out that Mickey 8, the new clone version, is there, and there's only supposed to be one version of a clone at a time. And so that's kind of the offset of where this is going. This is actually a fairly short book from the look of it, and I got this because I just recently discovered that there's actually an indie bookstore not that far from me. I had no idea existed, called the Story House Book Pub in Des Moines, and so I decided, like, okay, I definitely have to go there. I'm actually in a pretty darn good selection of books for fantasy, but most of them I had already read and or already owned. So I decided to grab this one because I remembered specifically hearing Dom talk about it, And once again, like I said, I mostly read fantasy, and I'm always going to mostly read fantasy, but it's good to try out different things every now and again. So I grabbed this one to give that one a shot as well. So next up, we have Age of Ash by Daniel Abraham, and this is the first book in the Kithamar trilogy. This one I read in e-archive. I also pre-ordered. I had it pre-ordered at the same time because I knew I was going to want a physical copy of it. I really, really enjoyed it. And I do have actually a full spoiler-free review for Age of Ash by Daniel Abraham. If you want to check that out, I'll put a link in the description to that also. So I won't talk a ton more about this because, like I said, if you're interested, check out that review. And then something different, which this was really cheap, and that's why I picked it up, because I've heard really mixed things, but I got Spinning Silver by Naomi Novik. This is supposed to be, I think, like a Rumpelstiltskin retelling, but also like a very like different, I think, more unique retelling where you almost wouldn't know that's what it is, I guess. I read Uprooted, which came before this and was in kind of, I think, a similar style. I thought it was okay. I didn't think it was great. I didn't think it was bad. I was like very in the middle. And this seems to be one that people are also like divided on whether or not they think this is better. And so I just finally, I'd seen it around before. And so I randomly decided I'll just get it. I think this was actually on Book Outlet, I think, at some point. Maybe. I could be wrong. It's got a dot, so it's probably Book Outlet. And so I just decided to get it since I'd heard a lot about it. Then next we have one of the coolest half-price books finds for me in quite a while. Is I found Ghosts of Tomorrow by Michael Fletcher. And so I already have several of Fletcher's books because I have the City and Path, the first two books, and I'm actually reading an e-arc for the third one right now. I also have Beyond Redemption, and I wanted to get more, but actually just seeing this in half-price books, I thought that was so cool, because, you know, especially when you have like self-pub books, finding them in the wild like that, that's just pretty awesome. And so I was really excited to find it. This one, okay, I didn't really know anything about this, and I was reading the description to try and come up with a summary for it, and I don't know that I can. So I'm going to read like the tagline, and we're going to go from there. And it's, the children are the future, and someone is turning them into highly trained killing machines. So this sounds like, so it takes place in like North America, but I think a very different kind of North America. Like, as you can see, like this is obviously not normal. So it's like fantasy with maybe some like sci-fi elements. It sounds like there's like robot, like mech things. And I don't even know. This sounds so wild, and I'm just really curious as to what this is going to be like. So this is definitely, I'll probably try to read Beyond Redemption before I read this, but I'm excited to try it. I really, really liked Fletcher's writing style and his books, and so this one sounds like it might be a little more off-the-wall crazy, but I am here for it, so I'm excited to try that out here at some point. So the next two are books that I got from authors that I really like, and I don't know a ton about either. But I picked up also, this was on Book Outlet, Court of Fives by Kate Elliott. So Kate Elliott is just an insta-buy author for me. I love Crown Stars. I want to read Crossroads Trilogy this year. And I have some other Kate Elliott books as well, some of which even will be in the next part of this book haul. This one, though, it sounds like is like YA and pretty like typical YA premise. It literally, there's a blurb comparing the main character to Katniss from the Hunger Games. So like, I did not really read anything about this prior to doing this video. I just bought it because it was Kate Elliott. So this is dropped to the lowest priority Kate Elliott I own, because it does not sound like something I'll enjoy, but I'm willing to try it at some point because it's Kate Elliott and I just like Kate Elliott. So that's why I still grabbed that one. And then we have To Ride Hell's Chasm by Gianni Wirtz. And so this randomly I saw Andrew get, and I'm like, well, if Andrew found a cool Gianni Wirtz book, I'm going to find him. And so this was on Book Outlet too. But this is like an older book, and you can see from it as well. It's the cover art's designed by Gianni Wirtz too, but it's a little strange. So I looked it up. This came, this was like a kind of like, not independent or like boutique publisher, I guess, that did some big names back in the day and doesn't exist anymore. But so this is like an original older book. I don't know why Book Outlet randomly got copies of this, but I thought that was pretty cool. And this one, the summary on the back is very short, so I'm just going to read it. Following the mysterious disappearance of Princess Anja, two warriors are forced to confront their cultural mores in a desperate bid to save not only the princess, but the entire kingdom of Cecily. And so it's Jannyworts. On the back, we have like a fire-breathing griffin, and it's Jannyworts. So, also having a standalone Jannyworts book to read would be pretty great. So, I really like Cycle of Fire, and as I mentioned a few times, The Wars of Light and Shadow is high on my list of priority of like really big series that I need to read still. So, I jumped at the opportunity to get this. I might end up trying this if I have extra time since it's a standalone. And you know, you don't get a lot of standalones in fantasy anymore. It's pretty rare, I feel like. So I might try to this sooner just because Wars of Light and Shadow is obviously super long. But I'll have to see where I get to it. The next up we have Celery by Michael Johnston. And this was a half-price book pick. I got it. It's a fairly decent condition. It's definitely used, you can tell. Hardcover. But this one is, the plot sounds a little confusing when I was reading it, but there's like this great empire that's been in power for thousands of years. But at the time the book takes place, apparently nobody has actually like seen the ruling family for a long time. And so some people are finally starting to like break off, and there's like potentially things going on that could topple the empire, that sort of thing. And it sounds like from what I looked up that this is supposed to have, while it's definitely supposed to have fantasy elements, also supposed to have some more like historical fiction elements. And so that's another area. I've not read a lot of historical fiction, and it's a genre I'm interested in dipping my toe into a little bit more because I tend to like history, and I love fantasy, so I can get some like historical fantasy type fiction. I'm definitely here for that. So this is just one. I'd seen it there before, and it stuck out to me. I do really like the cover. It's kind of like just one of those simple but elegant, very detailed covers. So I got that one as well. And then, very excited about, I bought most, if not all, I think this might be all, of Daniel Barnett's other books after finishing Lily, the 6th book and the end of the first arc of the Nightmareland Chronicles, because I loved it. I don't really read horror until then, but I'm interested in trying out some other horror books that I've heard recommended to people, and I really wanted to read Daniel Barnett's other stuff and just support him. So I love the way he describes books, so I'm going to read the blurbs on the back here. So first we have Long Reef. And this one we have, when his marriage crumbles, Mark Currier takes up residence in the abandoned seaside hotel where he once worked. But he is not alone. Something creeps the dark halls inside Long Reef. Something cold and wet that will teach Mark to be human again and to be afraid. For there are other forces waking, and the rat-infested cellar in the labyrinth of the annex, and the house he shared with his estranged wife Alice, old loves and older horrors. Hideous revelations that will tear down the walls between Mark and Alice, or destroy them both. And next up we have My Hungry Friend. This one's nice and short. When Mike Roberts kicks over a homeless woman's cup of change, she whispers a cryptic warning, "Mind the cracks." Now, the Boston he knows and loves is unraveling around him, but his life is not the only thing at stake. His mother, once acclaimed writer lost in the late stages of Alzheimer's, depends on him to have a home. And then there's Cassie, beautiful, incomparable Cassie, who might want something more from Mike than friendship they've long shared. As his city balances on a razor's edge, Mike will have to hunt down the daughter of the woman he wronged and uncover their terrible family secret, or be plunged into a world of crawling horrors and unspeakable hunger, a world from which no one has ever returned. And then we have Poor Things. This one's a little shorter. Summer crashes to an end on a winding road. Just like that, football superstar Joel Harper finds himself rolling his wheelchair into a new school in a strange town. Soon he's making friends of misfits, taking lessons in Iron Maiden, and trying to keep away from a ruthless bully with a penchant for switchblades. Little is he aware something ancient and wounded has awoken beneath the tiny mountain community, and when it surfaces, all of Hona will know its pain. So already, like, especially these last two, just sound very different from the kinds of things I normally read, so I'm excited to try. And then we have The Safe, which, Daniel, why is this one taller than all of the other ones? Nightmareland are all this size too. Why is this one taller? I mean, why? Come on, man. Come on. Now it has to go on a different shelf. It can't go on the shelf with all the other Daniel Barnett books. So, but The Safe. So it says, climb inside. The eastward of Harbrook Hill is home for the criminally insane, but only the most deranged dwell on the 5th floor. Take Walter Hostler, this morning's new arrival. He hasn't spoken in a year. Not since the cops found him hiding in the basement of his house, his wife laying dead upstairs. The part of her that was left, at least. Now he's alone in a dark cell 5 stories off the ground, behind locked doors and stone walls, staring down through the bars of his windows, watching the woods, waiting. Something is coming for Walter, something hungry, and no one is safe. So that is that one. So really excited. I'm not entirely sure when I will get to those, but I know it'll probably be a bit before the second arc of Nightmareland starts getting published. So I've got plenty of Daniel Barnett to keep me busy in the meantime. And then finally, because this was also when I was at Barnes & Noble, and I am a sucker for the Barnes & Noble leatherbounds, I grabbed the Divine Comedy by Dante Alighieri, because I've always meant to read this. I've read, I think, like, passages from Inferno before, but never the whole thing. So this is the whole thing, which is Inferno, Purgatorio, and Paradiso, I believe. Yeah, that sounds right. Which is like the whole, like, looking through both hell, purgatory, heaven, and so it's just one of those things. It's another classic type thing I've never actually read that I meant to, and like I said, I love their leatherbound editions, and they're only $25, and they're pretty darn good quality for $25, so I'm a sucker for it, and I grabbed that one as well, which will join the pretty bookshelf. So those are the books from part 1 of this haul. As always, let me know in the comments if you've read any of these, if there's any that I should bump up, or just your general thoughts on these, or some other cool finds you may have recently found. Like I said, watch out for next week. I'll have part 2, which will be the continuing series part, where I talk about all the other books I've gotten, which is probably slightly more the same as this chunk. It was about 50-50. Other books that I've gotten that are continuing series, so we'll go from there, and we'll see you there as well. So if you enjoyed this video, make sure to give it a like. Check the link in the description, of course, as always, for the Wizardly Duo Discord. If you want to join and chat these books, other books, any books, really anything, it is a lot of fun, and we would love to have you. Check also for the links to the channels I mentioned to check them out as well. And, of course, if you enjoy my content, make sure to subscribe.